You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Hello, everybody. This is Doug Draper, and this is Global Trade This Week. I am your co-host, Doug Draper. We'll make sure to get that right. And on the other side of the coast is my partner in crime, Mr. Pete Mento. Pete, hello, sir. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, bud. How are you?
I'm doing great. And we want to thank Cap Logistics, our guys that push the buttons. And I think we're going to be able to hook up with Keenan here in a little bit on some fun halftime banter. But as always, we appreciate Cap Logistics and their involvement to produce this show and put it on the air. So, Pete, how was your weekend, my friend, before we jump into our topics?
My weekend was fine. I mostly rested. I did not have, I guess, what most people would call a crazy weekend. I mostly slept, man. I mostly got a lot of rest. I was very tired after another long, crazy week. I went to jiu-jitsu. I rolled, strangled some friends. And that was like the deep extent of my weekend. I watched some spring training baseball, but I watched a little basketball because I got to root for my buddy's team, pal.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's we were talking. I don't want to. I'm a little superstitious, Pete. So I'm keeping it on the DL. I'm just going to go about my business today and just wish everybody luck this evening for the basketball game.
Well, I'm not going to wish anybody but your team luck. So we're gonna leave it at that, and hopefully, this next coming week you'll have some new gear to sport.
Oh yeah.
So
trust me. Well, I'm not even talking about it. I'm not even talking about it. So let's just let's skip over that. Let her rip, buddy. You're going to start us off this week. Talk to us about topic one.
Yeah. So topic one for me this week is one that it's a little counterintuitive. So much of my conversations outside of logistics, of course, are about the Russian sanctions that they're under at the moment, and how if you look at them on the face of them, they should be nothing short of just like a barrel of acid being dumped on their economy. But what we're seeing is that maybe it wasn't as impactful as we thought that they would be. The ruble to the dollar prior to these sanctions was trading somewhere in the neighborhood of, I believe, around 70 rubles to the dollar. It went up to about 120, 130, and then got up to around something like 160, 170, and then it's come back down. So right now we're trading somewhere in the neighborhood of around 80 to 85, I believe, as of our taping right now. Now, a big reason for that is because they're using a federal requirement to sell as much as possible using the ruble, whether that's energy or any other exports that they can still sell around the world. And unfortunately, for the interests of Ukraine and the globe, a lot of oil is still being sold. A lot of energy is still being sold by Russia, particularly to two big countries, India and China, who refuse to take part in these sanctions. So when you can prop up your exports with your currency, that is going to be a big reason that these sanctions aren't going to work. And the second is these sanctions are also having a secondary effect that I don't think we were expecting, and that's that they are helping to prop up Vladimir Putin, who is using them to sort of say, they're trying to hurt us. I've told you guys forever, the world is against us. Here's more proof of it. They're trying to ruin you, ruin our economy, blah, 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 blah. And that, in effect, is holding true at the grocery store and at the cash register. It's also doing what has always been the case in Russian economies. It is consolidating the wealthy against an external force. Every single time that there's been a Russian revolution, it's always been the ruling class that's been toppled. Well, right now, the ruling class isn't being divided. The ruling class is sticking together. This has not managed to get people to turn on Putin. So, unfortunately, the working class seems to be backing Mr. Putin through the course of these sanctions, and also the wealthy are saying this guy might be our only hope to keep ourselves solvent, regardless of the fact that our billion-dollar boat's been taken away. So I don't know, Doug. Give it more time. It's early days still, but I guess this could be an instance where sanctions might not be having the proven effect we hoped they were going to have as they continue on.
Yeah. It's interesting, I guess my take on that topic, Pete, you're so much more versed on the economic aspect of it, is I think that the world thought a aggressive, fast pinch was going to get things done in a matter of a week to 10 days. And that really hasn't transpired. And the longer things go on, and what you just described happens, and this conversation happens again and again, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month down the road, if the war is still happening, the less impactful they're going to be. So their efficiency, I think, was designed hard, shock and awe, to use that term, if you will. And when things didn't topple, crumble, or change, I'm not sure how they're going to be. You can keep tightening the screws, and we'll see. But yeah, it just doesn't. I don't think it's had the immediate impact that it was designed to do. And your comments are spot on.
Agreed, buddy.
Yeah.
What you got, Doug?
All right, man. So I've talked about this. The thing about this, Pete, is we talk about these topics and then we see reoccurring themes. And one of the reoccurring themes that I've talked about is a little bit of the connectors out there in the world and how important that is with moving freight. The other one is the idea of larger carriers starting to own the rails, is what I'm referring to that as, is that they're going to own and vertically integrate their supply chain. And what that does is it gives people more control. And when you have more control, you have a better deliverable. And, in the 80s and 90s, the whole concept of outsourcing, lean logistics, just in time, all these different buzzwords, I think we've come almost 180 degrees in full circle, almost exclusively because of the pandemic and the fallout that we're seeing with supply chain, labor, the whole nine yards. So why is that happening? In my opinion, the size and scope of companies that we have out there right now are so monumental that acquiring the rails to provide services where they have more control is not as cost prohibitive as they've been in the past. So what I mean by that, Amazon, Walmart, Target, all these folks are massive in scale, and they are actually acquiring different aspects of the supply chain, including delivery services, all of them. And that's the definition of owning the rails. You look at Apple and Tesla. They're starting to procure product directly from the source and eliminating the middleman. I saw some article the other day about Tesla was buying nickel directly from the source and not, I don't know if there's a nickel broker out there or whatever, but they're bypassing traditional delivery methods and taking control of that. So it's a trend that you and I spoke about, and I think that you're seeing it to be continuing as we move forward. And I think it's going to go backwards in the supply chain, which is that Tesla example of how they're going procuring raw materials that go into make their product, because if they have control, they can make more vehicles, and the more control they have, the deliverable to the consumer is more consistent. So I think that is a common thread. And here's the bottom line. I try to give some advice. Last week, my advice was get your domestic supply chain under control. Here's my advice. And I always take kind of a sales perspective, Pete, because that's been my job my entire career. But if you are a broker in some capacity, regardless of service, that you're selling to some of these larger multinationals that have a supply chain component, you better watch yourself, because your position is going to be bypassed to some degree. So shore up and reposition yourself and do a quick check of yourself. Brokers are in a interesting position right now because of the vertical integration of some of these larger companies.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with nickel in particular. I don't know if you were following that market over the past couple of weeks and what happened with the London Commodities Exchange, which is one of the last great exchanges in the world. It more or less had to admit that its days may have passed itself by because of one particular person who was manipulating it. His nickname is Big Shot. He's a Chinese commodities bazillionaire, and he created a short on the nickel market that he manipulated through his own. I mean, he's a nickel commodities distributor and purchaser, and because of his own position on nickel, he was able to brilliantly manipulate the commodities market by using the London Commodities Exchange. He did it so well that there were questions about the legality of it. And now The London Commodities Exchange has had to cancel all these orders, but they were done completely legally. He just gamed their system better than they could handle it. A lot of our logistics problems follow suit those same ways. People that own the method of delivery, people that own the method of finding out how to get a hold of something and produce it, they're the ones that are ultimately going to win. I think we all forget that people like JP Morgan, certainly people like the Vanderbilts, they built railroads to move the commodities that they had control of. They understood that it was one thing to have it. It was another to actually be able to move it from place to place. What made them wealthy beyond measure was not having the commodity. It was the ability to get that commodity where it needed to be and to control its distribution as well as its production. So we're beginning to get that now in this new economy that's made so much more difficult and complicated through the digital enablement of it through e-commerce. But yeah, Doug, it's what a time to be alive, buddy.
Yeah, I'm sure 30 years from now it'll pivot back, but
yeah.
So
that brings us to halftime, Doug. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Halftime from our friends at Halftime from Cap Logistics. To learn more from our friends at Cap Logistics, visit caplogistics.com for all of your logistics needs. They have been wonderful to us throughout this epic journey of ours, talking to you about not what we know has happened, but will probably happen, and how so many of these outer influences end up really impacting our lives as logistics professionals and as people impacted by global trade and economics. And with that, Doug, what do you got for us at halftime this week?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. So I'm going to talk a little bit of basketball, but I'm going to take a different spin because I made a commitment, being a little superstitious. But here's the deal, Pete. My son's down in New Orleans right now, and I have a tremendous amount of college buddies. So I went to, obviously, a lot of my guys are in Kansas City. As soon as they won in the Final Four, everybody's booking tickets. So I have my son and an incredible amount of friends that are down there right now. My son's experiencing something that is pretty impactful and maybe once in a lifetime, especially whenever you're an undergraduate down there and all the craziness that's going on. But the other piece is that he's connecting with all the guys I went to college with that also went to KU. So it's just amazing to me and how sports, whether it's basketball or whatever, can bring people together in different forms or fashions. And I'm very excited and proud that my son can hang out with all these guys that I went to college with. They're getting to know my son's getting to know them. The videos, the picture, the stories from both sides that are coming to me over the weekend and will continue to do so tonight, it is cool. And that would not have happened without sports, whether it's basketball, football, swimming, diving, whatever it may be, rugby. So I'm a big believer that there's a lot of value in sports outside of the competition in and of itself. And what I'm seeing personally this weekend is amazing to me, and I'm excited about it.
And along with sport, I'm a huge believer in it as well. As a rugby player, one of the coolest things about that sport, I think basketball is very similar. No matter where you go in the world, you can always find a group of other shitheads that probably get together every weekend and try to kill each other.
Yeah.
And basketball is something else. You go to the community center, you go to the gym. There's always a pickup game. There's always people that have that same desire and passion for the sport that just want to play. Now, later in my life, for whatever stupid reason, I have taken up choking and trying to break limbs with people 4 or 5 days a week. And it's the same thing, no matter where I go in the world. I was in Vietnam. I rolled jiu-jitsu. I was in Hong Kong. I rolled jiu-jitsu. I was in Brazil. I rolled jiu-jitsu, and I was schooled. But, anywhere I've gone, I can take a class, I get to know people, and everybody's always super cool.
Yeah.
But I think what makes this particularly special, Doug, is this is something that clearly you have raised your son to really appreciate, and it's something that has been a connector between you and all of your friends. It's been one of those things that has been it's been one of those common threads of your friendships that you've shared with your son that now he's been able to enjoy in a meaningful way. And I know you don't want to be superstitious, but I hope he has a pretty cool, awesome, impactful night tonight with a bunch of your old friends. So I'm just glad I'm not in New Orleans, because if I got to hang out with your son, he would come back with like a neck tattoo and probably a record. So it's cool that I'm not down there.
Or I'd be flying down there to bail him out.
No, I'd take care of that. He wouldn't get arrested. I know too many cops. So we got to get to my halftime. Okay. So
yes, I was about to say enough about that. You have a good one.
So a lot of incredible African American actors have been asked to play historical figures. So, you look at Will Smith, he has played Muhammad Ali as an example, right? You had Jamie Foxx, who got to play Ray Charles. And I think, and now apparently he's playing Mike Tyson, which I guess he blew that away. Like, he was incredible. Okay. So Will Smith, I guess, the phone's not ringing these days for reasons that we can talk about some other time, but got me to thinking, Doug, who would play you in a biopic in the Global Trade This Week movie? So if we were going to hire actors to play us in a movie about the show, who do you think would play the characters of Global Trade This Week?
Oh, all the characters. Wow.
You can just do
Man,
yourself.
You put me on the spot.
Yeah. Who would you have play you?
Okay, good.
Yeah, go ahead. You can just do
Good.
it.
We're going to talk to all three.
Yeah.
So it's funny you said actors playing. I would say Val Kilmer, not 2022 Val Kilmer, but let's go back to when he played Jim Morrison in The Doors.
Oh, that was a great movie.
Biopic.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Val's kind of a little quirky. He's kind of, I wouldn't say he's not nerdy, because I'm not nerdy, but I don't know. I just like his flow and So to answer your question, Val Kilmer, I could see him playing myself.
I'm going with Bruce Willis
go.
for Doug Draper.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis would be a fantastic Doug Draper, in my humble opinion. It's just me. If I was going to cast you, if I was going to cast young Keenan, I don't know if Keenan's going to pop on or not. I don't know if he can be on the show with us at the same time or not. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Keenan.
Awesome.
I would send Jason Momoa on an island for 6 months to have him lose like 150 pounds. And I would have Jason Momoa play you. I would either pick, and this is a tough one, I would either go with Jack Black. I think he would, for obvious reasons, very entertaining. And also we've got similar personalities, or possibly Kevin Smith, Silent Bob from the Clerks movies. Either one of those I think would play an excellent Mento. I'd probably go Jack Black, and then I would go with Bruce Willis, and then emaciated Jason Momoa across the board here for who I would cast in the Global Trade This Week movie.
Well, thanks.
I love it. All right.
But I have to tell my girlfriend about the Jason Momoa. Maybe leave out the emaciated part. Start eating some more steak. For Doug here, I was thinking the lead from Mad Men, John Hamm is the actor I would go with for Doug.
Thank you.
Don Draper to play Doug Draper.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And then for you, Pete, I agree with your choices. What came to my mind was John Belushi.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
And for myself, I'd go with what I've gotten in the past, especially before I grew a beard. I used to get the guy from Entourage a lot. Can't remember his name. That or the dude from Gene Simmons' son, but I don't remember either of their names.
Who's the guy in Entourage?
The
Which
main
character?
guy.
Are you talking about the lead?
Yeah, the lead guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adrian Brody.
That's his name. I used to get that before I grew the beard, and then in one of the seasons, he grew out a beard and moved to an island.
Keenan. You need to shave because Adrian Brody is one handsome man. Like, I'd make out with him.
He's more attractive than I am, but that's what I used to get.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm gonna go, Pete. I'm rolling out classic John Goodman for you.
Handsome man.
That'd be a good
New
one.
Orleanian. Yep, I like that.
Either Big Lebowski or Oh Brother, We're Out There.
Love both those movies. Love John Goodman. Okay, I can live with that. Yep.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, and for Keenan, I don't know. I'm telling you, emaciated Jason Momoa, like possibly on the nothing but granola and depression for like 6 months. Jason Momoa. Yep, I'm thinking that's the winner.
One of those radical Hollywood transformations.
I'm not going to use the term emaciated. I'm going to use the term sveltly.
Sveltly. I don't know. Like Crunchy Keenan, he way too much kombucha. Not enough prime rib. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta eat more steak, huh? More steak.
I got a feeling that dude doesn't eat anything but like chicken breast and broccoli. And I mean, you don't get a body like that eating like Pete Mento used to. So, Doug, you're very svelte. That's another halftime. Keenan, go
Yes.
get back to playing.
Yes.
Get back to playing Xbox. We'll see you later on. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for popping on there, KB.
Yes. So that's halftime, and that brings me to my second topic, Doug, which forces me, unfortunately, to use one of your stupid catchphrases, which as usual is correct, and that's connectors. So here we are, far past Lunar New Year being over with, far past the Chinese Olympics being over with. We're at the point now where the major beneficial cargo owners, or BCO contracts, have been sorted out. Many of the major NVOs have sorted out their contracts. We have, I'd like to think that we're at a point now, at least in the American economy, that we're kind of maskless. You know, COVID isn't nearly the big a deal as it was before. Economy's doing great. You would think things be getting back to normal with regards to congestion and especially with regards to rates. But that isn't the case. And the reason for that is connectors. I hate to say you're right, but that's the best way to describe it, Doug. You're spot on with this. The connectors of zero COVID restrictions in China, which caused major, major problems because the trucks could still move, but where they could move between was heavily restricted. And the Chinese, as Peter Churchwell, the Journal of Commerce always likes to point out, are excellent at finding ways to maintain the ability to get the goods for export prepared, even if they can't move. Here in the U.S., the rail has just been an absolute nightmare. Not enough truck drivers. We still have congestion at the port level. We haven't made more roads. We haven't made them more efficient. There's no more warehouses to put things into. All those connectors are just a train wreck. And then add to that the uncertainty of those connectors. We are facing down the barrel of a possible port strike. Whether or not it happens doesn't matter so much, as logistics is not a checkers match. It's not even backgammon. It's 3D chess. So many companies right now are moving as much as they can to the East Coast. And they're also bringing in as much inventory as they can prior to this thing happening. So you're overloading the system that's already overloaded, and you're overloading it on the East Coast, which for the most part has never been ready, ever been ready for a significant amount of freight. So the connectors are overloaded, which means you're going to have some kind of brownout. It's just not getting any better. And heaven help us, Doug, if we do have a port strike. Heaven help us. I don't think the White House is going to let that happen, but those connectors, particularly on the East Coast, they're going to melt down. So I think that's where we're at, Doug.
Yeah. Valid point. It'll be interesting to take that topic and to talk about owning the rails and the mega companies that we have out there. Is something going to happen where there's going to be their own port, where an Amazon or somebody's going to, and like, you know what, we are done. Yep. We're done with this nonsense, and our customers demand X, Y, and Z, and speed is part of that. And we're just going to build, we're going to have a pop-up port, and we're going to put it at some place, and we're going to, whatever. It would be a pretty interesting case, but I'd be curious to see if that happens. Own the rails on the level of a port and massive infrastructure. Who knows if we're coming down that way? But you're spot on with it ain't going to get any better, and we're not going back. You know, there'll always be creativity and ingenuity with some technology around it, but that's visibility. And if my shit's going to cost a lot of money to get from point A to point B, at least tell me where it is, and then I can plan for it. So I think there's always going to be some creativity around the tech overlay, but to see where things are going. But I love it, Pete. You're right on.
You just like the fact I used your word. It always makes you so happy when I have to admit, like an idiot, that Doug came up with an awesome word and that it actually works. So you get connectors, buddy, along with Bopus. Stupid Bopus. So you get them. You get a bunch of them, bud. But as usual, your crap checked out.
Well, that just means I got to keep coming up with these cool acronyms. I'll come up with another.
Cool is a stretch. Acronyms you get, but I don't know about cool. Effective acronyms you get, Doug, and effective phrases you get. But I don't know if I'm ever going to be willing to give you cool, my friend. So let's just leave it at that.
All right. Well, Pete, I'm going to round this thing out before you take us out, is autonomous trucking. So initially I put this category, so just a couple weeks ago I said, hey, autonomous rail traffic is going to happen before autonomous trucking, or I won't go into those reasons. It's a fixed track and all this other kind of stuff, where autonomous trucking is on a road with other people that are not autonomous, and the interaction is constant on the highway. But I think I'm coming around a little bit with some autonomous trucking on some of the straight line rail corridors out here in the West, where there's not a lot of distractions and you can just get on a highway, put it on cruise control, so to speak, and let it rip. And I know that I just read that Kodiak and SEVA put together some programs that they're doing in and out of Dallas, which seem pretty cool. So I'm a little more bullish on autonomous trucking. Electric vehicle and EV, not so much still. Drones, you know where I stand on that. But I'm coming around a little bit on autonomous trucking. And when I was thinking about this, Pete, the one piece of it that is going to be lagging behind, which could create problems, is what's the insurance piece of that, right? How are you going to insure a truck going down the road that's autonomous, that may be contracted with a carrier, that has nothing to do with the technology, and some accident happens or something negative happens with that? Who has the liability, and where's the insurance coverage going to lie? Now, I'm sure there's insurance guys out there that can chime in a little bit more, and I'd welcome, your thoughts whenever this thing posts up on LinkedIn. But I think insurance is nobody's paying attention to it with the way that we have nuclear verdicts and the catastrophic nature of claims that are going on out there, and human life in some instances. Insurance is going to be an interesting play related to autonomous vehicles. But so my 2-point thing is, I'm a little more bullish on autonomous trucking. I'm not all in yet, but I'm a little more bullish. And I think insurance is going to be a bigger factor in how all that plays out once this becomes more prevalent across the country.
So I'm going to go back to conversations we had in the past. First of all, Doug, I love that you're big enough to admit that you're wrong. It touches me.
First of all, I didn't say wrong, Pete. So I'll just need to clarify that. But
I don't know. Sounded like you said you were wrong to me. And second of all, go back to an earlier conversation we had. I think the answer to this lies possibly in a company like Tesla, with an owner such as Mr. Musk, who has so much money, saying that we will insure the tractor trailer and its technology for collisions and for mishaps. So if the cause of the accident was the AI, if the cause of the accident was the autonomous nature of the vehicle, if the cause of the accident is legally determined to have been the result of something that had to do with the autonomous nature of the vehicle, it's on Tesla. It's not on the driver. It's not on Doug and Pete's tractor trailer company. It's not on Draper Mental Haulage, right? So that's fine. But if it's anything else, it's on you. If a coyote runs across the street and we swerve to miss it for whatever reason, actually that'll probably be AI. But if a kid runs across the street and we swerve to miss it, we got a problem. And that's going to be a weird thing for the courts to figure out, but whatever. I think that does address part of it. If I was Elon Musk, instead of buying 10% of Twitter this morning, I'd be putting my money towards something like that. The other half of this thing that you bring up is, you guys mock me all the time about the future. And to that, I say, I'm showing you tall man underneath the camera right now, because the answer lays right there between individual ports. Amazon should put an individual port somewhere on the west coast of Mexico. It's that simple. And then Hyperloop should go from that port underground in a tunnel that Elon Musk makes from that port straight to the U.S.-Mexican border, where they build a factory just as big as the ones for the gigafactories, where there's an Amazon warehouse, and then they build another tunnel that goes right underneath it to another distribution warehouse in the United States, where then they can do their 301 de minimis duty-less entry and distribution, and they pay for their distribution. They pay to have a border crossing and a border entry, and they pay to actually have everything set up for U.S. Customs and for federalized for Mexican Customs. They use Hyperloop. They use their own ports. They use autonomous trucking to do it, because there are no rules for those roads underneath the ground, are there? Make it all private. Dude, you just wait. You just wait. I'll be very dead when this all happens, Doug, but that's where all this is going. You just don't realize it yet. But because I have experimented enough with enough substances, my mind is there, my friend. Sooner or later, yours is going to get there too.
Yeah, what was that? What was the maid's name on the Jetsons?
Rosie. That's
Rosie?
the name of my iRobot that
Rosie.
cleans my floors for me. Her name is Rosie too.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Conceptually, it's fun. I don't know. I kind of get it and I kind of don't. It's 50, 100 years out in my
Doug,
opinion.
you walk around all day long with a thinking computer that you ask questions to, whether you know it or not, all day long in your pocket. All day long. It is essentially a part of your body that you feel anxious if you can't find. And 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that would have been ridiculous that you would be so absolutely reliant on that technology. 10 years from now, I can't even imagine how reliant on that same technology you're going to be and all the things in its wake. There's a dude in Austin, Texas, with a wacky name from South Africa who launches satellites on his own, completely unencumbered by regulation, because he wants to give internet to people who are fighting a war against Vladimir Putin. That's not a comic book. That's reality. And if you don't think that same dude wouldn't build tunnels in order to keep his crap moving around for parts, you, my friend, are smoking better weed than I get at the dispensary. So it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before regulation meets the fact that things are too expensive, all these inflation and gold. It's just going to happen. It's going to happen. 3D roads underground, autonomous drivers who aren't afraid of a collapse of a cavern on top of them, and our ability to do it faster and more environmentally conscious using magnets and all that frictionless movements with electricity from nuclear power plants. Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'll be in my deathbed. I'll be sitting there. It'll be like Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton. And I'll be dying. I'll be, Draper lives beyond me. But as I'm dying, I'll be watching the news with your new co-host. So probably like Keenan, right? He'll take my place and be saying, today, Elon Musk's tunnels underneath the ground. And all will be happening, right? All coming true right in front of me as that last piece of prime rib clogs up my heart and I die. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Wow, man. You can tell right now I have nothing to say. So I think that's a great way to end the show. I'll let you do. Wow, dude. I don't know how we went from insurance and autonomous trucking to magnets, satellites, and nuclear power, but somehow it happened.
Can I say my mind's a three-ring circus and you just stepped in the tent, buddy?
I know. And prime rib in your deathbed. So that runs the gamut right there.
Yeah. So I want to thank all of you for joining us today on Global Trade This Week, brought to you by good friends at Cap Logistics and clearly my overwrought imagination. I'm Pete Mento, and as always, Doug Draper is with us. We both want to thank you for joining us, telling all of your friends, sharing the show, and letting people know that you do enjoy it. I want to thank Keenan as well for jumping on with us today for his lackluster, although useful, input. And we hope that you'll join us again next week for another episode of Global Trade This Week. Thanks, Doug. Enjoy your game tonight. See you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, sir. See you, Pete.